What's going on, everyone? In this video today, I'm going to show you how to install some cheap Amazon or eBay rear sets on your Honda GROM. That way you're going to have a little extra clearance so you can ride like this. The reason I'm making this video is because many of these rear sets available on Amazon and eBay are very inexpensive, but they do not come with instructions. And if you're not mechanically inclined, or if you are, it could still be difficult. For myself, it did take a little bit of time, but I'm going to show you some tips and tricks of how to install it. So let's get right into it. My plan was to make a full installation video on the GROM, but it was very difficult given that there was no instructions. It took a little more time, and I actually had to run to the store to get a few little nuts and bolts. So what I'm going to do is show you the rear sets installed, some tips and tricks, and some things I learned along the way that can hopefully help you. I know it will help you put these on and have no issues. The bike that I have them installed on is my 2019 Honda GROM. These are compatible with, I believe, 2017 to 2020 Honda GROMs, and I will put the link to these in the description as well as a few others. Many of them do have poor reviews, and many of those reviews are coming from the fact that they do not have any instructions, so hopefully this will help. Before we get into the rear sets, I do ask that you hit that like if you find this video helpful, and don't forget to subscribe. There's going to be a lot more videos to come with the GROM. Let's get this box out of the way, and we'll get into the simple stuff. To make this job easier, the first thing you're going to do, set aside the passenger peg brackets, the passenger pegs, and the 4 M8 or something close to it screws that will attach these to the main rear set. The other thing to note is that on the ones that I have, you actually have to replace this shaft, pin, call it what you want. This is actually the shaft that connects the swing arm to the bike. So needless to say, I was a little hesitant to replace this. It does come with a shorter version. Reason being is because the rear sets are a little bit narrower than the stock ones. I was a little hesitant to swap this out, but given that it's a light bike, it was not that difficult at all. So the first thing I'll say is when you're swapping this out, if you have to, is tap it with a soft rubber mallet, get it all the way in there, and then take the next one, butt it up against there, and start tapping it through. You may get to a point where they don't line up. The swing arm may be a little crooked, but since it is such a light bike, you should be able to kind of wiggle the bike, get it lined up, hammer it the rest of the way through. Keep in mind that you don't want to hammer with a hard surface onto the threads. Leave a nut out there like that, so you're tapping on the nut as opposed to the threads. Let's jump over to the bike. We're going to do a quick walk around with the camera handheld, and I'll point out some tips and tricks that should make it very easy for you to install these. All right, so we're starting down here on the exhaust side. First thing I will note is these nuts right here. These are the ones that hold that shaft through the bike. The flange nuts that came with the rear sets were actually too large to fit in that inset hole, so I had to go buy new ones. One of the ones off the stock did fit in there, but then the actual socket that you would need to use was bigger, so it wouldn't fit in there. So I did go to the store and I was able to purchase some of these at the hardware store. Looking at the exhaust bracket, this is the Yoshimura exhaust that I have. This is the stock bolt that it came with, and this is also a piece that it came with as well. So I screwed it into where the actual brackets for the passenger pegs are supposed to go, and then I use these nylon spacers right here. These are nylon spacers that come with TV wall mounts. I always save them. Looking at the rear brake, there are a couple spacers right here. It comes with a few of these spacers. I used a short one and a long one to go from this bolt to where the actual master cylinder is for the rear brake. I actually ended up having an extra one of these, and I'm not sure where it goes, but this is how it connects straight through here. And I actually did go ahead and I put a nylock nut on the back here. That way it doesn't come off. There are 2 brass spacers that go right here and right here. And then there's 2 screws that go from the back into here. I ended up using a different screw for that just to get a little more thread into the bracket here. But that's how it holds there. You do have to fiddle around with the hoses here to make sure that they are out of the way and everything is lined up right. Another thing I did change was the shifter knob. This was supposedly supposed to be on the shifter side. However, I like the gnarled one on the shifter side, and I put the slightly longer smooth one for the rear brake. You may notice these heel guards right here. These do not come with the rear sets. I made these out of a sheet of G10, so completely ignore those. Those do not come with it. I made those and added those on. Now, the most tricky part was the brake light sensor, and there's a small little L-shaped bracket that is right here, and then a small screw that holds it in on the back side of this hole. Now it comes with a spring with one hook on the end and the other side is just straight. So what I had to do, it's kind of hard to show, but there is a screw that goes through here. It's a fairly long M6 screw, and there is a nylock nut on the back of it to keep it tight in here. I believe this is threaded, but then I also tightened that on the back too. And then what I did, and I'll ground flat spots on the end of this screw and then drilled a small hole. And I had to figure out what length spring I needed. You can kind of see it down there. And then once I got it all set, I cut the spring and then bent another hook on it to go into that screw. That way when you press on the brake, it'll pull that sensor, and then you can adjust this right here to get it so it actually triggers at the exact time you start to press the brake. That was a little bit tricky. Looking at the rear sets on the front, this is the largest spacer. This goes on that shaft. And it did come with another small spacer that I believe is supposed to go in here, but I didn't seem to have enough room, so I just used a washer. So this is what it looks like all installed here. Another thing I want to note is, if you see where this is right here, this bolt, the stock rear sets are actually about right here. These rear sets lift up about 3 inches and move back about 5 inches, so it is a way more aggressive riding position. You're gonna be shocked when you put these on. Not all these rear sets are the same, but it is very different compared to the stock rear sets. If you're riding on the track, that extra clearance makes it much easier to not hit the ground when you're going around those turns. All right, let's jump over to the other side. This is the shifter side, and it's a lot more simple. There's not as many things going on. You will notice that I did scratch this up already. I crashed the first day on the track that I put these on, but they did actually hold up pretty well. I did have to replace the 8mm screw in here because it got a little bent, but everything else was okay. So there's also 2 very small washers on the inside next to the shifter lever on the machine screw on both sides. Make sure you have those. If you do take these off, they're very small washers that press up against the inside part of the bearing. Allows this to move freely. This is that gnarled knob that I took from the brake side and put onto the shifter side, because to me that extra grip feels much better on here. This was a little tricky to install. Once you take off the rear one, you have to fully take out, there's a set screw back there that actually has to fully be removed. It can't just be loosened, and that way the other one just slides right off. It was helpful to take this cover off as well when I was replacing that to get up in there. And again, these are the nuts that I had to purchase that would fit into there. And then there's also a small spacer in here. This is where one of the other spacers that came with it was used. There is no spacer on the bottom. Even though this part is threaded right here, I added one of those nuts on the back here just because everything on these can come apart very easily. Put thread lock on every single screw. I did miss one of them, and on the first day out after a few laps, one of the screws fell out. Luckily, it wasn't anything important. Feel they are slightly adjustable. There's 2 little holes that you can put this screw into, which kind of slides these up and down slightly, but it's almost negligible. Now that you've seen the rear sets installed, I hope this video helps. I hope this solved any of the struggles you're having or will have when you go to put these on. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll answer them the best I can and as quick as I can. If you have yet to purchase any rear sets, I will put a few links in the description below. They are affiliate links, so I do appreciate the support. I'll also throw a few links to other additions that I put onto the bike. I'm also going to do a full overview of many of the parts that I've been adding onto the bike, specifically targeted more for track riding, which is something I never thought I'd say when I got a GROM, but I will tell you it is an absolute blast. If you have a GROM and you have a go-kart track near you, I highly recommend it. It is so much fun. If this video helped, please hit that like and subscribe for future videos on the GROM and many other bike videos and a whole bunch of other random stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.